I'm going to just kind of kick it off with a little bit of an overview. Again, this is Introduction to Operations Center. So we have a lot of folks using Operations Center throughout Kibble equipment. We have a lot of people that aren't, or that are just getting started. So the intent behind this meeting is to maybe introduce you to some new features that have happened in the last couple of years, or if you're still an Apex user, maybe this is all new to you. So maybe we could do a little bit of interaction here. Could we get a show of hands if you are using Apex or aren't using Operations Center at all? Just raise your hand, or okay. Very good. So this is awesome. People aren't falling asleep right away. So thanks, guys. So we got a handful that are using Apex or aren't using Operations Center. So then just the opposite question, raise your hand or give me a thumbs up if you are using Operations Center today. Okay, quite a few. Awesome. Okay, so kind of the idea here today is to go over Operations Center, and it has changed a lot in the last 12 to 18 months. So if you did use Operations Center, 1, 2, 3 years ago, it has changed quite a bit. I'll just do a high-level overview of the interface, and then after we get done going over the website, there is also a mobile app available for Apple and Android devices that has come a long way as well. So I'll do an overview of the mobile app, and John Deere's kind of overall plan over time is to make it so you could use either the website or the app and do pretty much everything in both places. Okay, so with that, I'm going to switch out of this PowerPoint, and I'm going to go into the website here. So let me pull up. Okay, so first thing, if you do not have an Operations Center account, I'll actually log out here so you can actually see it from scratch. I'm going to log out, and the first place to start is myjohndeere.com. So most everybody that we work with has some sort of John Deere account already, whether that's you had a John Deere financial or John Deere credit loan in the past that you managed online. That can be used for this My John Deere as well. So if you think you may have an account, if you don't know the username or password, you can use these links here, forgot username or forgot password, and it's just a typical, hey, email you a link to recover that password or username. So I have a demo account here to show you what it looks like. So I'm going to sign in. And if you don't have an account, for sure, you can create a new account. It's all free. So the landing page here for my John Deere has changed over time, but it's got a lot of different links to things that you would use that are John Deere related. You can actually manage these links in the order that they're in. Again, like I mentioned, you can manage your JDF account if you have any loans or you have farm plan with JDF. You can access that through here. Some other links that we're not going to mention or not going to go through, but there's a link called Operations Center. And if you don't have an Operations Center profile created, once you hit Operations Center, then it'll walk you through the steps to create a account, and it's all free. So even if you don't have John Deere equipment, or if you have older John Deere equipment that has the 2600s and 2630 monitors, you can still use Operations Center for free in lieu of Apex. And then here, if you have equipment that's registered to you via the warranty system or an Operations Center, it'll show up here and it'll give you alerts if there's any recalls, or you can look up parts. So I'm going to click on Operations Center. And I'll maybe back up a little bit here. We had a few of you raise your hand saying you're using Apex still, or you're not using Operations Center. So the good news about if you're an Apex user, there is a process to move your data from Apex into the Operations Center. I worked with some customers of ours that have yield data and maps going all the way back to 2001, I think is the oldest I've seen, when we had the brown box and the original mapping system. So in order to do that, I'll pull up Apex here. So here's Apex, good old trusty Apex, been around for 16 years now, I think. And actually, John Deere just announced that it is no longer for sale. So a couple things with Apex. First off, we just got a bulletin. There is actually a security update that just got released today or yesterday. If you go to help, check for Apex updates, you'll see this popped up. I have not updated my Apex today. I can't recall the last time there was an Apex update, but this is in relation to actually getting your data up into Operations Center. So I won't do that here right now, but there is an update here that is required if you want to continue moving your data to Op Center. So in order to do a backup, we call it a backup to Operations Center. You click File, Backup and Restore. Now you have to have your Operations Center account created before you do this. It's going to close Apex here. As long as my trusty system doesn't crash on me here. Okay, so here it basically walks you through how you're going to back this up to the Operations Center. I'm going to back it up, I'm going to continue, and then it gives you a few options. Why are you creating a backup? To upload to John Deere Operations Center myself, to give to my data to my John Deere dealer to upload for me. So if your internet connection is poor at your house and you want us to upload it, we can. Or if you're just going to back it up on a USB stick. You do need to sign in with your Operations Center account first, and then you click continue, and then it'll sit there and chug for quite a while. And then it'll either back up the data to Operations Center on your computer yourself, or you'll give the data to one of us at Kibble to upload for you. One tip though, make sure your computer does not go to sleep while you're doing this. Depending on how much data you have and your connection speed, it could take some time. So make sure your laptop or computer isn't in power save mode. Okay, so that's all we're going to talk about Apex. Unless there is another specific question around Apex in that process, we're just going to spend the rest of our time in Op Center. This is the landing page for the website. So you can see how it's laid out. They've changed it a little bit in the last 6 to 12 months and organized our links in a more logical setup. So see here, or sorry, I thought I had a question come in, but so by default, it'll land in this map page, and it'll center itself on your address. So when you create your Operations Center organization, you'll put your address in, and wherever you put, it'll kind of fall on that space in the earth. But on the left, things are kind of flow logically as you would go through the use season. We have setup, plan, analyze, and more. So we'll hit each one of these at a high level. To get started, so I'm going to kind of maybe approach it as if you are starting purely from scratch. Maybe your data in Apex, you weren't managing it cleanly and you just want to start over. So that's where we do setup. So I'm going to go into setup, and there's a few different tools in here. First one, if I want to start creating my field lists, and this is something that I encourage you to put some thought into, especially if you're working with other people. And that's one nice benefit of Operations Center is you can partner with agronomists, you can partner with crop insurance people, other, maybe you're doing custom work or somebody's doing custom work for you. How you name those fields is critical, especially when it comes to reporting. I know a lot of people sometimes name all their fields number one or home or something that is maybe hard for somebody that's not familiar with their operation to interpret. So this land area, this is where we manage our fields, our field names, our boundaries, and our guidance lines. So if we're just going to get started, you see this field, this is a real operation. So I'm not going to do too much messing with the data, but there is this is where we can create new fields. And I'd encourage you to write this out before you even start going in here. But in Operations Center, what's kind of nice is there is a pretty common theme here where you hit create new, when you hit a new field. And then if you already have a client farm and field set up, you can just pick them from this drop-down menu. I know some companies do this differently, but the thought process behind client farm field is client would be the entity level, so the owner. So if you're doing custom work, or maybe you have different partners that you have the fields split up, that's where you would go at that level. And then farm, a lot of times people structure the farm name in maybe how they rent the land. So if you rent land from 4 different people and they each have 4 different fields, for me, it would be Horb Farms, and then I maybe have Miller's, and then the field would be Miller Home. So that's how I would structure it. And especially if you're working with a crop insurance agent or an agronomist, making it easy for them to understand what those are named, and also your operators, that they know what those are named. There's also so I'll make a test one here, add new client. Just so we know what to delete. And then so there's no farms under test clients. I'm going to do test. And then what's nice is it does show you what this will look like on the display. So when you export this out to a 4640 or a 2630 display, or 2600, it'll show you. And then one new feature, you need a Gen 4 monitor for this. If you're on RTK, there is a way to link RTK base stations to a specific field. That's a relatively new feature, but the idea behind that is then once you change that field in the display, it'll automatically switch RTK base stations if needed. Okay, so that's step 1. Let's create some new fields. This is also, I'll pull up an actual field here so you can see some of the other functionality within Land Manager or Land. I'm going to pick this field here. You see the little eyeball. Sometimes the icons aren't very intuitive, but this makes it visible. So now I pulled up the active boundary for this field. And then there's a little expanding icons here. I'll find a field that maybe has more assets. Yeah, so here's a field, a big field. I'm going to pull that one up. So I hit the eyeball, and now that actually pulled up both fields. Zoom in here. We have a boundary, an active boundary, and then we have an RTK 180. So this is an AB line that they created. And if I'll uncheck this guy here. So we're just seeing this. Kind of hard to see, but if I hit the eyeball next to that guidance line, you can see they basically put in an AB line, and they hit an A point, and then they put 180 degrees. So this is a 180 degree AB line. But this is another area, if you're importing data across and you have a lot of AB lines, you could have a lot of garbage over the years. This account, they've done a really good job of managing their AB lines. So when they go into the field, they only have specific AB lines to pick. But this is also where you can clean things up. So if this AB line is no longer relevant, you could check anything that you want to hide. In the past, in Apex, I believe it was retire. In Operations Center, they call it archive. So you click archive, and then it doesn't delete it. It just hides it so it's not available to add to a setup file. If you archive something and you want to bring it back, you can go into this archive section, find the field. So if you farmed a field, you lost that field 1 year, you could archive it so it's not messing up your view. You get the field back a few years later, you can unarchive it. And then there is a few nice reports here too. I'm just going to hit select them all, and there's an export function. So I'm going to do this two ways. I'm going to do a spreadsheet first. So if you're a spreadsheet person, Operations Center has several areas where you don't have to deal with just what Operations Center has. It does allow you to manipulate some of the data in spreadsheet format. So here's an export from land. It's got several different tabs on the bottom. One is just a pure field list. So this might be nice if you want to go through and clean things up and you just want to print it off and scratch things off. Boundaries. So now it has the acres within each active boundary and when it was created. We've used this in the past. A couple years ago when we had some prevent plan issues, we compared as planted data to active boundary acres to understand what some operations had for prevent plant in certain counties. And then here's a list of all your guidance lines. So this is nice if you're going to be manually typing in guidance line ABs into another monitor, or you just want to back up in case something blows up and you don't want to make sure you lose it. And then flags. So this account doesn't use flags, but this would be an area where it would list all your flags. And a lot of operations flag every single tile inlet, and that's where that would be. The other export is a PDF. And you can see here, it does, before I hit export, it does list what I'm going to be doing here. I'm going to export a PDF, which is a really nice book, especially if you're big into guidance line management. You have a lot of operators that you want to make sure that they're using the proper AB lines for those fields. This will chug a little bit here. Okay, so that popped up on my other screen. So this is it's really like a booklet. First page has all of your boundaries and your guidance lines. And then if I get down to the field specific, it'll have a page for each field and list out the AB lines with their lat long as a kind of a backup. So that's land. So that'd be step one. If you don't have any fields, go through here and create all your fields. If you do have data in the system, but you don't have boundaries, you can actually go in here and I'll create a new boundary. And it will give you the opportunity to either draw a new boundary from scratch or from a previous operation. So I'm going to choose. So a lot of times you don't have to scroll through. You can search if you know the field name. And then I'm going to hit next. And then it's going to ask me what application or what layer I want to create the boundary. So here, what it'll do is it'll just take the outskirts of that as applied data and create a boundary. So you don't have to manually drive it. So you want to make sure it's a valid layer. You don't have any drown out areas on the edge of the field that might impact what that boundary looks like. Enter a name in here and hit save, and it'll generate that boundary. I'm not going to do that because this operation has good boundaries. But the benefit of when you do this, when you have boundaries in the system, then on your mobile app, when we get to that, or on this website, then you'll have more visual indicators of what's going on the field. One other tool to create boundaries, and I want to make sure everyone's aware of that. This can be a very good tool, or it can be very dangerous. Under More, there's a bulk boundary creator. So basically what this will do is any field that you have data in and no boundary, you hit run boundary generator and it's going to automatically create boundaries in this order. So if there's more than one layer for a field, it's going to choose seeding first for the current year, seeding last year, and so on in that order. It works well, but if you don't know what you're doing when you hit that button, it can create a disaster. Okay, so that's land and boundaries. Next one, I'm going to go into team. So team is a way to manage who has access to your account and what permissions they have. So this is what makes Operations Center a lot more powerful than Apex, is that you can work with other people to help manage your account. So for example, in this operation, you can see they have several people on their team. And I'll just go at a high level what this means. You can have connections, partners, staff members, and operators. So a staff member is somebody in your organization. When you create an account, you'll be added as a staff member with the highest permissions level. You can add to your team, and you can have more staff members, so you could have multiple people in your operation have their own Operations Center account. You click Add. It'll ask you what you want to do. I'm going to add a staff member, and all you need to do is type in their email address. I'll just go through with partially the process here. And then here's where you set the level of permissions. So by default, it kind of gives people everything. Just a simple way to think about this, you can read through all of the language, but in a simplest way, if they're at a level 1, they can view something. If they're at a level 2, they can edit something. And then level 3 is like deleting things, and there's different levels across. But if, for example, if you wanted a staff member only to view equipment, you didn't want them at org management, is being able to actually add people, delete people. And then locations is another one. Level 1 is be able to see your boundaries. So level 2 is be able to see yield layers, seeding layers. Level 3 is actually editing data. So you might have an agronomist that you want to give every access to. Maybe, for us, you want, just level 2 so we can see the data and help you with it. But you have control. You have ultimate control of who sees this. But there's a lot of layers, a lot of steps here. And oftentimes what happens when we want to support somebody remotely, there's some of these settings are set up where we can't see things. But it is ultimately your choice on who is partnered with your account. That's one of the nice things about John Deere is very transparent as far as who can see what. So that's staff. Partner, I kind of alluded to that. That's a partner. So that'd be us, Kibble Equipment. That'd be an agronomist, a crop insurance person, somebody that's outside of your organization that you want them to have access. I've also seen people do this with landlords. You can add a landlord as a partner, and there's a setting in there where you can actually limit which fields that partner sees. So back to our example with field naming, this partner or this landlord rents you 4 fields. They live in Chicago. You can give them access to see just those fields. And then there's a new one here called a connection. This is a way to connect your account with a third-party company that has a connection into Operations Center. I'll go right up into here and show you this, connections. So John Deere has a very open process for companies to be able to tie into the Operations Center. Again, it's up to you to manage that. So here's a connection. Shows that these are the 2 connections that we have connected to this operation right now. You can see there are a lot of connections. If you know what you want to search for, let's say you're working with Corteva, you can connect your account so your data would go right into the Corteva platform and not have to repeat and use USB sticks in 3 different places. The data would go up in Operations Center and then flow over to Corteva. Same thing for insurance. Rain and Hail has an integration where the data can go up into Operations Center as you map it, and then it can go automatically into Rain and Hail. So a lot of connections, and there's more all the time. Drone imagery companies, just a pile of different ones. Egg scale cart, scale cart for your grain cart. Libra cart's one of those. There's several of those too. So that's what's one of the powerful things is you can get the data up in one spot in the Operations Center, and then it can feed into other tools that you use without them to replicate. I mean, we even have Egg Leader here. Soon, if you're a FieldView user, so if you have all green except maybe your planters running a 2020 monitor, or you have a red combine, you can we'll be able to connect FieldView to Operations Center and get your FieldView data into Operations Center as well. Okay. See here, I just got a message. Okay, so Tim, one of my coworkers here brought up a good point back to accepting permissions request. So sometimes you'll get a request from a partner. So you can initiate, I'll go back to this page here, team. So you can initiate a partnership and also somebody can initiate a partnership with you. So if we want to manage your equipment and put equipment into your account so you can see it, and we'll get to equipment a little bit, we request a permission or partnership with you. And what we do is we go click add partner, we type in your email address, and then you'll actually get an email that says, hey, Kibble Equipment would like to partner with you in Operations Center. Click here. And what it'll actually do, you'll log into your account, and then I'll just click on this one. You'll get a view to review their permissions that they've requested. So here, there's access granted to partner, and you'll see what you'll see is things that are kind of in italics that indicate that I have the dealer or somebody else has requested permissions from you. And the simplest way to do it is hit edit, and then you review, and it's up to you again what you give them permission to. Verify this is where you can actually choose which specific fields you want that partner to see. Make sure it all looks good, and then you hit save, and then now that partnership is accepted. And so what that impacts is that if us as a dealership specifically, if we don't have a partnership with you, we have the ability to remotely diagnose and troubleshoot equipment these days, or we can do a remote display access session with you if in season if you have an issue with your monitor. But if we don't have that permission set up properly, then when we go into here or a technician goes in to try to diagnose things remotely, we can't do it. And we've had a lot of success stories where we've been able to save a service call, be able to diagnose something remotely, or be able to bring the right part the first time because of the diagnostics that we can use with Service Advisor Remote. So thanks for that question, Tim. Okay, next thing to set up, and I'm not going to hit every single category here, but I want to get over the highlights, is products. So this is very similar to land. This is where you input your seed, your fertilizer, your chemicals, your tank mixes. So the whole idea is that when you create your setup file, you have all that pre-populated in the monitor, so you're not sitting at the end of the field punching in varieties and chemicals. You can just boom, hit it, and it's there. Very similar to land, hit add. And what's nice is that Deere has a database that they work with other companies to pre-populate some of these. So like here's a variety. I'm going to do P0507. This is P0507. So this is a new hybrid from Pioneer, Minnesota area code corn. So this is new this year. It's here. You can just check the trait package, and then you can select more than one, hit next, and then it will add this to your list of products. Same thing with chemicals. I don't think I haven't ran across many things that aren't in here. But the good news is that if there is something, a unique product, or maybe you're testing something for a crop protection company, you can hit this add button and you can add your own custom product. With chemicals, you want to go through this process, add all of your chemicals first. I'm going to discard my changes, and then I'm going to just do herbicides. And then I can hit add tank mix, and then now I can add certain products to a tank mix, and it'll give you specific calculations for when you're loading the sprayer, how much of each product you need to load. Okay, so that was products. So now we got team, We got products. One thing that's not in here, which might be a little hard to understand, there's no equipment here. So before I can go and create my setup file, I also want to have my equipment. I'm going to go back to map. And you can see in this operation, we already have some pieces of equipment. How equipment gets in the operation center is two ways. One, if your machine has a modular telematics gateway, it's MTG. You'll hear us throw out that acronym, or we call it JD Link. We add this to your account, and so that was part of that permissions thing. So we'll add this machine to your account. So I'm going to click on this combine. So it has a MTG. It's connected remotely. So you don't have to do anything. The machine's going to be added automatically. We have the serial number. You can go in and edit the name if you'd like, but otherwise it's there. You can see even this operation has added an MTG to a 7810 tractor, which those of course weren't available when 7810s were out. So we can do that too. The advantage of having the machines hooked with MTGs is as the 2630 or your Gen 4 monitor is done mapping, you get done seeding, you get done harvesting, and the data flows up to Operations Center automatically. But we can still upload data manually with a tool called Data Manager. So if you do have machines you want to add that aren't added through the JD Link process, you click on your piece of equipment here. You see your list of equipment right now. Cornhead and a Flex Draper example where we need to add them. You hit Add. And the simplest way to do this here is to enter the full serial number of the machine, and then it will actually pre-populate a lot of these things for you if it's a John Deere machine. If it's not, then if it's not a John Deere machine, then you can just type in the name, the make, model, and hit Add, and then you choose the equipment type, and then it'll choose the appropriate icon so it looks pretty on the map. But if it's a John Deere machine, enter the PIN, and it'll do a lot of the work for you. We have people that put their gators in here. Some operations that put an MTG in every semi truck so they can see the semis as they move around the map. So yeah, a lot of different functionality. Okay, so that is setting up equipment. And then next, in order to get things to the display, we have a tool called Setup File Creator. And basically, we take everything we've done. We've created fields, we've created products, we have our equipment, and now we're going to create our setup file. So a similar process in some ways to Apex, but you choose your display type first, and choose GS3, and create a test. You can create a new one, or if you just want to edit one that you did in the past, you can do that too. Hit start. And now this is where we choose all the things we want to show up in this screen. So you can be selective if you don't want everything to show up in the screen. You don't want this AB line to show up. That's fine. This is also when we get to harvest, where we need to choose products for our variety locator. So that's when we get to the field with our combine, it's going to automatically change varieties. You can see that's when we chose that. It's right here. Hit next. I'm going to choose the equipment. And it's also pretty important that you choose your implement. It will give you an error if you don't choose your implement. Choose the products. I'm going to choose just varieties. And then this is optional if you do have operators and you want to keep track of their tasks in the monitor. You can do that as well. This is more used in sprayers with keeping track of who sprayed what for record keeping. And then next, now this is the summary. It's going to tell me what it's going to do. Create file, and then it asks me, do I want to deliver this wirelessly? So with MTG in the combine, I can actually send that file wirelessly, so I don't have to drag along a USB stick. So I'm going to not check that because this is a test, and then I'm going to create without sending. Okay, so that's pretty much now we're ready to go to the field. The tool, if you're not familiar with Operations Center, if you do not have wireless data transfer, you can download that to a USB stick. There's a tool called, it's under More, John Deere Data Manager. So it's a tool to manage, basically all it does is make it easy to get things on and off your USB stick. So it's an application you download. I already have it. I'm going to download this file. And this is actually a manual process. So this is the setup file if I was going to manually drag it to the stick. If I'm going to go to Files, it gives me the option to download it in the Data Manager file. So I'm going to check the box. This Files area, kind of skipped ahead there. Files is located under More. This is all the data that's flowing in and out of your account. So if you have prescriptions or data flowing in from an MTG, this is where it shows up and you can find it. I'm going to check the box and hit download. Now it asks me to just download as a raw file or a data manager. Hit download there. So now you can see here, there's a file with the JDDM. That means that it's going to work with data manager. I just clicked on it. So now it opens this application that basically makes it easy for the system to, yep, I do not have a USB stick in my computer right now. So you choose your USB stick and hit transfer. And this is the same application you use if you're going to manually upload data into Operations Center. And you can use this tool to upload Case IH data, 2020 precision planning data, Trimble data, ag leader data, so you can get data into Operations Center from other monitors as well. So there we go. That's basically, we've now got files in the display and we're ready to go farm. We farm and then we upload the data either automatically or through a USB stick up into Operations Center. And that's where we'll just kind of skip right ahead to Analyze. Now let me back up, sorry. One other tool that I kind of skipped over, there's two tools that are in here under Plan. Agrarian Prescription Creator. We do have a video out there, which I'll show you guys where these are at, that goes over creating prescriptions. So you can get prescriptions either from your agronomist in a shapefile format and upload to Operations Center, or you can create them yourselves here using this tool. In the interest of time, we won't go into this right now, but you can use the tool to create it based on soil types, elevation layers, previous yield layers, and use that for your seed or fertilizer or tillage prescriptions now. With TrueSet, we can do tillage prescriptions. There's also a work planner, which is new for Gen 4, where if you have a Generation 4 monitor, the idea behind this is when you pull into the field boundary, it'll pop up on the screen and say, hey, the plan was for you to plant this variety with this prescription, and we're going to load this AB line. And the operator hits accept, and then it will pre-populate that all in the Gen 4 monitor. Okay, so under Analyze, this is where we can actually go and look at our data. So there's two places I'll quickly hit on, or three, I should say. Analyze, Fetal Analyzer Beta, and Machine Analyzer. So Analyze is the raw data in more of a spreadsheet type view, where you can dump out reports of what you did. So this would be going into crop insurance reporting. We did a video a little while ago that's out there about using Operations Center for crop insurance reporting. Here I have what do I want to view. I'm going to view my seeding for which season and what crop. Okay. So now it gives me my totals of areas seeded for each field, what varieties. If I click on this, I can see which varieties I planted in that field. This must have been a test plot. And then totals. You know, what was your average, your total target, and your speed, and then last seeded. So this report is really a good summary for what you would need for, you know, providing to your crop insurance agent. Again, you can export this in either a PDF document or a spreadsheet. And then there's similar views for harvest. So same thing, corn, and then gives us our area harvested, average dry yield, etc. So this is the quick and dirty raw data. If I want to actually look into a field and you look at the map, I either click on Analyze and click on Field Analyzer Beta, or I can just hit Map, and it's going to take me right into Field Analyzer. Okay, I'm going to click on this. And one thing I didn't mention is when you're using Operations Center, please use Google Chrome. We do have a lot of issues with people using Internet Explorer. So Google Chrome, Firefox, I've heard it works okay. Microsoft Edge, but Deere highly recommends Chrome. So here's our yield map. It defaults to the yield layer. But this is where we can do some more deep dives into specific things that happen in the field. I'm going to click on this drop down, and we're going to go back to 2020 corn seeding, and I want to compare it to my variety. And I have no idea if this field has more than one variety, but this is where you could actually compare the yield in one field with multiple varieties. So yeah, this one had one variety. So this is a blip that they must have switched varieties. But if you had multiple varieties, it'd be here. This is the same place if you're doing trials for fungicide or other practices like in-furrow fungicide or fertilizer. If you did a test strip, you could pull up that layer here, and then it would tell you the differences in that field for that practice. Okay, and then again here, export, and it'll give you the option to print that map. Today we do not have a bulk. There's a common question about bulk editing layers, or bulk editing, or excuse me, lost my words here, bulk printing maps. So I would like to print these maps all in one shot. Today that is not available in Operations Center, but I know that is on their radar. Okay, so we had a question here. Can you make a template so you can compare all your cornfields using the same scale, similar to Apex? Yes, so if you look at the legend here, so thanks for that question, Michael. If you hit Edit, Legend, here is where we can actually change where those breakpoints are. So you're correct. When you pull up a field map, it's going to automatically look at the ranges in yield or any values in that field and distribute them equally to make the buckets, actually, so it's not all just one color. But if you have a yield range in your farm from here 150 to 250, and you want that range to be the same, you can go here and edit that and do 150, and then so you see how I just did that distribute evenly. Now it just made these buckets evenly between all those. So you can add more colors if you want, or less. And then you hit save as a template. And then next, you name it. And then now you have that available. So when you'd have to go in here and hit save, it's going to regenerate. But then when you go into the field, you hit edit, and you can actually, if it wasn't already picked, you can choose that template right here. So then when you print it off, it'll be the same. Good call. Good question. And then you can see here, I didn't hit on this. There are all kinds of other layers here. Some of these are kind of interesting to see. If you have a compatible machine, you can see fuel consumption as a layer and correlate that with elevation or yield. There's a lot of information here if you want to dig into it. And speed, especially speed's very fun maps to look at when we have high-speed planters. Okay, so yeah, you can see here he must have started here and sped up as he went north. So the last one to hit is Machine Analyzer. So if you do have a JD-Link enabled machine, there are a lot of different types of data that you can look at your machine on how well you're utilizing it. There's different data attributes based on the type of machine. But here, let's see, I'm going to choose last year. And so at a high level, we can see how many engine hours we put on our combine. If you had more than one machine, they'd drop down and you'd see, multiples of the same machine or the different machines here. We have fuel usage, performance. We can see idle working transport. Did we use auto steer? What percent of the time did we use auto steer? If we're on a sprayer or planter, what percent of the time we use section control? And this is something that we're continuing to work on too, is benchmarking. If you have one S670 combine, how well are you performing compared to other S670s, or if using this data also to make smarter decisions when you're ready to upgrade machines or trade machines. Okay, so just looking at my checklist here. Oh, one thing I did miss. Back a couple things on the map page. When you see your boundaries, this is an advantage of having boundaries here. On the map, they'll automatically pre-populate the last thing that happened. So seeding is green, application is blue, and then once we get to harvest, there'll be another color. This little blue trail, this is a location history. So it'll show the location history of that machine. When you hover it over, you can see it was the 4760. Come later this month, you'll actually see these. If you have a 4G MTG, you'll actually see these little icons change. They'll move around the field with every 30 seconds. You'll see the location update more frequently. Last thing I'm going to hit on the website before I turn over to the mobile app and do a quick overview of that is the question box here. So this is a lot of information. Deere puts out updates on Operations Center every 2 months. So you can click on the release notes and get a overview of what they've changed. You can actually, what I do is subscribe to updates. So you'll get an email from John Deere when they release something new. So you can see what's changed. John Deere has done a lot better job of how-to videos. So if you click on this link, it'll actually pull up a YouTube channel on Operations Center. So they have a lot of 4-minute, 3-minute videos on how to do certain functions in Operations Center. And then contact support. So this is if you have an issue with Operations Center, you can always reach out to us. Then sometimes or often we'll reach out to these folks at Deere also if we can't solve the problem. Feedback. This is if not this isn't for something that's wrong. It's for something that you'd like to see changed. You can submit this feedback, and actually the teams at Deere review this every week. And if you fill this out, we've had experiences where customers were followed up with, and Deere was just wanted to clarify what your request was. And we've had some that actually were able to participate in an early release of a feature based on their feedback. They do listen. And then the last piece is help documentation. Deere has a lot of good information out here if you're trying to figure out how to do something in Operations Center, and it's updated quite frequently. Let's see here. So this is a good demo. So sometimes when this happens, this could happen in Operations Center as well, where you try to load something. I'll try it one more time. Sometimes the first time doesn't work. So this is blank. So this is not uncommon for other websites too. If you see this, don't give up. I'm not going to do this during this session because it's going to wipe out a lot of progress. But if you hit your 3 bars on the top, hit your history, and then history again, and clear browsing data. What this will do is the websites store data locally on your browser, and sometimes as things updated, if you go back to the website and something changed, things sometimes won't load properly. So you clear your browsing history and your cache and your cookies, it oftentimes will fix it, but then you'll have to re-log in and start over. Another tip is, I think it's Control-Shift-Delete does the same thing. It pops up that window. So that's a good tip, not only for Operations Center, but for a lot of websites. Okay, so now I'm going to switch gears real quick. We're not going to spend nearly as much time in the mobile version, but we're going to switch over to that. I'm going to stop presenting on my computer and I'm going to switch over to my iPad. We're going to see how this works. And I would encourage you, let's see. Encourage you to download the app if you have not already. So the app is, if you just go to the App Store or Google Play Store if you're Android, it's available for phones and tablets. Just share my screen here. And John Deere has made a lot of strides with the mobile app. So here I got my iPad. I'll go back to that home page. So you can see, okay, so I have a Bluetooth mouse hooked up to my iPad. So this experience is similar on an iPhone, iPad, or on an Android device. Deere does typically a good job of getting things out at the same time. It's called Op Center. I click on that. So I'm in the same account that I was in on the website. If you are using Operations Center and you have a smartphone, absolutely use the mobile app because you're going to have your phone with you 99% of the time. Sometimes it's hard to slow down and look at the website and do things. There are some things we can't do in the mobile app, which I'll highlight. By default, it brings you to your map view, and I'm going to pinch and zoom out. And if we actually had equipment working here on this org, you'd actually see, or this organization, in the operations center, you'd actually see, excuse me, on the app, you'll see the icons moving every 15 to 30 seconds. So on this view, I'll switch first over to home. We have home, map, plan, and analyze. You can see there's some similarity there. Home gives us kind of a timeline of what's going on in our farm. So especially with wireless data transfer, as data flows up into the op center, you'll see these things flow down from newest to oldest. So here's a Liberty herbicide application. I clicked on this drop down. If you have a boundary, you'll see that we have an active boundary here. It'll actually give us a progress bar as that gets completed throughout the operation. You can see on the top too, we have a 21 seeding progress. During seeding and harvest, you'll see this bar grow as data gets uploaded to the operations center. But this is very nice. It gives us a quick snapshot of what we did, and then we can go right to the map or to the totals right from here. Active equipment gives us the equipment that's been used recently. See that 4760 was one that we had that little trail on the website. So now I'm going to click on map and we'll take a look at this field. So now it brings me right into that layer. A little different view if I want to pull up a different layer. There's up here on the top, it defaults to applied layer, but I can choose my target rate or speed for application. I'm going to go back to applied rate. And then there's a little tray. It's kind of hard to see on the bottom. I pull this up. It'll give me the totals. Is the work completed? Which equipment completed the task? For spraying or application, it'll actually give you weather. And this will be either if you manually entered it into the display. If you didn't, it'll pull it from a third-party source. So you see it's third-party. That's an online source, and it gives you a breakdown of your conditions that day. Defaults to wind speed, but you can also see temperature and humidity. And what's nice too, when you're actually, when the equipment is actively applying, if you have a Gen 4 and a 4G MTG, you pull up your app, if you're not in the machine, you'll see these totals actually tick up every 30 to 60 seconds also. So yeah, and then what's nice here too, driving directions to the field. So if you're working with an agronomist or somebody that's not familiar with the area, They can get into your account and get directions. And you can easily share as well. If you do custom work and you want to send a map to somebody, I'm going to skip this. You can add the operator name if you want. And then it's going to pop up and let me text or email this report to whoever I want. So that's the mapping page. One ninja trick that I won't be able to demonstrate. You see me do this, but if you take two fingers and then slide up, you can kind of get a 3D view of the field as well. Kind of a nice parlor trick, but also on the map page, you can add a flag. So I can create a flag by tapping on the map, or there's a button here that has plus with a dot. I can add a flag where I physically am at with my phone. Didn't get into flags too much on Operations Center, but the flags you create here, you can attach pictures to it. This is a field notes. So if I'm scouting and I want to, say there's a weed pressure issue here, I can take a picture with my phone and add it to the flag, and then it'll actually show up in Operations Center as well. This is, again, very beneficial if you're working with multiple people. Leave a note and it'll show up. Okay, so that is map. Plan, this is something new. So if you had all your products set up ahead of time and your fields set up and their boundaries and guidance lines, this is a way of creating a setup file, that work planner, on your phone and sending it to a Gen 4 display. So you don't have to go back to the web to do this. You can create a new plan, choose your fields, your crop, varieties, if you're going to put product down, and then choose your guidance line and then send that to the Gen 4. There are a couple good videos that Deere has on that YouTube channel about how this works. And you can give them work instructions here too. So we did have a few operators do that this year with Gen 4, and it did work fairly well. So this is just an example of more things coming to the mobile app. And last thing, Analyse, very similar to what it looked like on the web, but on the mobile app. So you can quickly, especially as things are happening live, you can get your totals and see how things are performing throughout your field. And again, a button right here to share, either in a PDF or a CSV. One nice area here too that I think is very beneficial. It seems like every year there was a planting date or a variety that you want to go check. You can't remember where you put that variety. Here you can go into your varieties, choose it, and you can see which fields did you plant that variety in. If you know there's a white mold issue with a certain soybean variety, or if you want to go back and there was a crusting issue on a certain date, you can sort by planting date and see exactly what date you planted it. So yeah, so that's kind of quick and dirty with the mobile app. One last thing, see if I can find it here that I did not touch on the website. Both on the website and on here, if you see this little icon that's got the screen, that means you can do a remote display access session and see that screen remotely. You can do that on your phone, on tablet, or on the website. This machine is not currently running, so I won't be able to do it. But if you tap on it, so here it's going to try to attempt to log in, but nobody's in that machine, so it's not going to work. But this is very beneficial, and we do this all the time as a dealership. You can do this yourself within your own operation. Okay, with that, kind of wrapping up, see if I got any other things on my checklist. I know it's been a full hour here. This recording will be uploaded on our website. I'm going to stop sharing on my iPad and go back to my computer and just show you a couple more resources that we have available for you. So this again will be put up on our website, on YouTube, and on Facebook. But if you go to our website, you just have a relatively new website refreshed. If you go to Precision Ag and then Virtual Training, you have our history of these videos that we've done in the past on Facebook and on YouTube. It goes back in time, and we're going to continue to add to those. And then we'd love feedback if you have any suggestions of things you'd like to see in the future. Quick plug for a few promotions. If you go to specials and then click part specials, you can see what we have currently. For the 10% coupon you guys are going to be getting for attending this session, you'll have to use that 10% on something other than what we have offered already. So still plenty of stuff that you can buy from us. And under service, we have our current inspection programs, and also if you do have a 2G or 3G machine that you would like to upgrade to 4G, we have a program that's out there for that. Okay, so Craig, we had a question, how do you add new equipment? Assuming you're referring to adding new equipment in Operations Center? Yes, okay, so I'll go back to Operations Center here. On the Equipment tab here, excuse me, on the Map tab, hit the tractor icon, and then what you have listed here is already in the system. If the machine has an MTG for JD Link, when you buy it from us, we'll move that to your account, and then it'll just show up. But if you want to add a non-JD Link machine, you hit the little plus button right here. And then if you have the full serial number, that is the best. You punch it in here and hit search, and it'll pre-populate almost everything. If you do not, you can just name anything with an asterisk is required. And then I'll just go through here, make a test one. Of course, John Deere's on the top of the list, but you can add other brands. I'm going to choose a tractor, and then it asks for the model. So they even have compact tractors in here. And then you can choose the colors if you don't want the default colors, and then hit add. And then now that's going to be available to put in as your in a setup file. And then here's also, this is a good point, this is where you can modify, if you have the machine offsets documented, you can modify those and how, where it relates to the implement. Okay, I had another question here. How do you edit application tasks for products used? Okay, so we're going to go, I know we can do that in the mobile app. I'm just going to verify if we can do it here in the website. Oh, Fuel Analyzer Beta. So I'm assuming that the issue is when you applied the product, whatever product you chose in the field was the wrong product. Okay, so I just pulled up a layer here. This is an application. And then see there's a button right here on the right-hand side. Hit edit, product. You can actually also, so now you would have to have the product already selected, or you'd have to add the product if it's not already in your list. So this was Harness Max. I can change it to the correct product. You can also do this for seeding. And then also this is one thing that's relatively new, area applied. So if you harvest, you applied and it, over applied and the acres are higher and you want to adjust it so it's whatever your crop insurance or what you want to bill for, you can adjust that acreage here too, and then it'll adjust everything accordingly. Hopefully that answered your question. You can also do this in the mobile app. If you go into Analyze, there's a little pencil icon where you can adjust the area and the product. Okay, so we had a question here. Does equipment setup data, offsets, etc., transfer from Apex to JD Operations Center? That is a question that I don't know off the top of my head. If I have any other moderators listening, if they know that when we do an Apex transfer, yeah, so Tim just chimed in, no, the offsets do not transfer. Yeah, so that what you could do in Apex is document all those offsets and then re-enter them into Operations Center. So good question. Okay, we'll hang on here for a little while. That's kind of the nuts and bolts of what we had for today. Appreciate everybody's time. Keep an eye out for future trainings that we're going to do. We'll be scheduling a virtual combine clinic here coming up pre-harvest, and we'll continue to do more of these Operations Center changes as things evolve. Okay, looks like no other questions. Going once, going twice. Okay, we're going to end the recording of the webinar. Excuse me. Feel free to reach out to any of your local Kibble locations for more information. Look for your email for your parts coupon. And with that, thank you very much. Thanks for your business and stay safe.